So the other day I was playing games deep into the night and I was thinking to myself, why does it feel so addictive in the moment, but then once you switch off and you've gone way past your bedtime and you feel really grotty and tired, what is that horrible empty feeling that you get afterwards? The quick response would be, it's the lack of stimulation suddenly, that you've just switched off everything and you're back to your own thoughts and the quiet, and you've just been hyper stimulated for hours. But then I thought, what about if it's something deeper than that? What if it's subconsciously where you have that epiphany moment where you say, I've spent my whole evening gaming or watching rubbish on TV or binging YouTube, and then you suddenly become aware, like hyper aware of all the times you've done that in the past. And it's quite a heavy weight when that all happens in your mind, when you start thinking about all the things that you missed. And I think that's where some of the bad feeling comes from, when you suddenly switch off and you need some other kind of stimulation. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, is that weird, horrible sinking kind of feeling. I don't know if everyone gets this or if it's just me. When you're sort of on your own in the dead of night and you then go to bed and then you still think, oh, I need to put on the telly, or I need to just scroll on my phone or something like that. And I think we're all guilty of it. And I was contemplating the reasons for that. And I think sometimes it's that feeling of the potential that we waste when we do these kind of entertainment things. And I'm not talking about little short sessions which are completely normal and healthy. I'm talking about like the long sessions where you just get really hooked into something and you feel like you can't switch off for a long time. And I think it's that stark reality of your current life and who you are now versus who you could have been if you'd have spent the last decade or something cutting out that time where you just spent days and days and all your evenings on entertainment. And then you get to the point where you just sit in the silence at the end of the gaming session or whatever you're doing, and you kind of sit with yourself and you just hear that deafening silence because all the games are switched off. There's no stimulation anymore. And partly I think it's where we feel that kind of loneliness kind of creep in, where when we're online and we're with loads of people and with our mates all doing stuff, and it's kind of like that parasocial relationship kind of vibe where you are connected. You feel like you're connected with, when you're watching a live streamer or something like that, you feel like you're kind of with them, with a friend, because we're social creatures, right? And it kind of makes you feel satisfied until everything gets switched off, and then you realize actually your real life, you're quite alone. And I think that's kind of where that bad feeling comes from. So then why do we then the next evening go and do it all over again once we've felt that bad feeling after doing it the day before? And I think that is something to do with that feeling of the potential that you waste from binging, lifeless entertainment, and that all kind of floods in and it feels bad. But then it's at a point where it almost is so overwhelming that you feel like you can't actually rectify that today because it's such a massive task. And so then you just say, well, we'll do that at some point in the future. And then what happens is you just continue to repeat the same habits. And I think that might be able to be said for most bad habits. If you identify something as a bad habit, you say, why do I keep doing it? And it's, well, because you've done it for so long, then you feel like there's such a massive amount of work, a mountain to get back to where you would like to be. Then you take the easy road again. I think we all do that. So that's why I think we find ourselves just picking up the phone and just scrolling, or not even knowing what we want to look for when we turn on the TV or switch on YouTube, because we just get something put in front of our faces, and that kind of quietens that silence of being by yourself, and you end up putting on any kind of entertainment just so you don't feel that kind of overwhelming sense of regret and guilt and potential wastage. So where do we go from here? Because I'm not just going to end on a negative note like that and make everyone feel like they're in despair. I think that you do have to accept where you are now, and that might not be where you want to be, but that's okay, because it doesn't mean that you necessarily knew what to do back then when you first started a habit, or perhaps it was a fun habit at first and then it's become a bit of a consuming cycle, a life consuming cycle. And then what you end up doing is feeling that guilt, but you need to just accept it and perhaps just sit in that silence. And although it's quite overwhelming, and yes, it feels quite overbearing and heavy weight to bear, sometimes we need to be aware that we weren't like ready to like wake up then. You know, it's that kind of feeling of, whoa, you have that epiphany moment of, oof, that I just spent 6 hours gaming and I don't even feel good for it. Like, I didn't actually enjoy myself. It was just like a cycle, addictive cycle again, and we keep doing it. And so you just need to appreciate that you are now aware of it, and that's okay. It's okay to not know what you want back then, and it's okay now. Maybe it took you 10 years to realize, actually, why do I even play games anymore? Why do I watch that particular show? Or, you know, why do I do this particular habit? And you need to be kind to yourself and realize that perhaps you weren't ready then to realize that it wasn't actually beneficial for your life. Perhaps you had hope that something would develop from it, maybe some sort of job or a career from the gaming, maybe something like that. Or perhaps it was a social event back then, and then your friends have kind of stopped doing that thing. Then it's kind of become ingrained that it's a habit of socializing. But when you realize that actually you're just kind of wasting your life doing something that no longer gives you anything. So the way forward is just sit with that discomfort and then perhaps consider other hobbies that you might want to try, although they might not seem entertaining at the time when you're thinking about them because of that hyper-stimulating activity that you're so keen on, or your addictive brain is so keen on, that you realize is no longer good for you. You now need to look at other aspects and other avenues of hobbies, other entertainment sources. Like perhaps you need to start working on art or music, or working out and pursuing some sort of marathon or some sort of bigger fitness target. If you don't work out, maybe you should start and see where you go with that. Try and get yourself engrossed with that. Or perhaps it's getting back into reading books or something like that, and consuming something that is more engaging in a different way. Not hyper stimulating, no, but much more satisfying and much more rewarding, because you're learning something that you could potentially apply. Perhaps you want to start a business, and this could finally be the day that you actually sort that out and you actually start to pursue the things that you really want nowadays and stop repeating the same old habits that you always did. Pursue something new. Try something, even if you don't think it will be entertaining. Just have a go somewhere, do something you've always wanted to do, join a group, anything that will take you out of that comfort zone. And although it's difficult, you'll probably look back on that in a few years' time and realize that actually this was the most pivotal moment potentially in your life. You might meet the love of your life just by doing one new hobby today, or you might make some sort of connection or a lifelong friend which you go and have many adventures with and have great times with. Or you might just meet someone or go somewhere and have an idea, and that could be the start of a business that you've always wanted to do or never even thought of, and you discover something which completely changes your life.